Thank you to our loyal listeners for returning, and a warm welcome to those joining us for the first time. I'm hopeful that all of you will continue to participate in our webinars and help spread the word. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Ed Mann, Director of Training and Education. Tonight, I'm thrilled to welcome an old friend, the always exciting and enthusiastic Chris Pfaff. He'll be sharing his thoughts on tactics and strategies for 2025 dealing with lithium-ion batteries. Chris, welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you join us once again for our webinars. The feedback from our listeners after your previous sessions has been consistently outstanding. Now, I'll take a couple of minutes and tell our listeners about yourself.
Well, thank you, Chief. Let's see here. Let's make sure. Oh, there we go. Yeah, my name is Chris Pfaff. I'm over here in Washington State. I'm a 20-year firefighter, 5 years in the prevention division doing investigations and inspections of a lot of facilities around here. I've done a lot of consulting with lithium-ion batteries, as well as hazardous materials for response and code development at the national and at the local level over here on the West Coast. I've gone across the country doing lithium-ion battery training for first responders, for second responders, for fire investigators, and I've had a lot of discussion on the code development process of that. So you can find me over at hazmatandrescue.com, where we have a lot of good ongoing and continuing and initial training for hazardous materials, a ton of resources, and obviously, just like we're going to talk about tonight, lithium-ion battery training.
Great. So I'll go through our proverbial Provident introductory slides. So Provident got started in 1902 as an independent insurance agency in the Pittsburgh area. And in 1928, the owner of the company realized that volunteer firefighters, especially in Western Pennsylvania, when they got hurt doing stuff for the fire company, didn't have any way of protecting themselves with wages. So they started an accident and health program in 1928. Today, we remain the only independently owned, privately owned insurance company in this niche. We provide services to volunteer, combination career firefighters, emergency responders with a multitude of programs. We're also now offering the same programs to law enforcement across the country. We're celebrating our 7th year as one of the top insurance employers in the United States, as voted through the Insurance Business America magazine. Some of the programs that we do, our accident and health program. If you're an accident and health client of ours, something I want to point out is that you and any immediate member of your family is able to use our first responder assistance program. It's a mini version of, if you will, of an employee assistance program. We also have a 24-hour accidental death and dismemberment policy. A lot of departments will purchase that to be able to offer some type of benefit to their members if they should die from an accidental death, even when they're off duty. We have a group term life policy, a critical illness and cancer policy that you can purchase. And in the last 7 or 8 years, we've gotten into the property and casualty business with our Fire Plus. And if you're a Fire Plus customer of ours, your department's entitled to use our Fire Plus Academy, which is through Fire Rescue One Lexipol, that has over 800 online courses you can take. And something I want to mention about our accident and health policy, we now, in a lot of states where we are able to, where we've been approved, there is a cancer rider you can get with your accident and health policy now that doesn't require a presumption. Basically, if you've been diagnosed with cancer and you're able to show that it's the first time you've been diagnosed with that cancer, it'll pay a benefit. Next month, on August the 26th, Jason Valerie from Texas will be doing a presentation on the 18 structure fire watchout situations. Tonight, as I said, Chris Pfaff will be joining us to do his presentation on lithium-ion batteries 2025 strategy and tactics. And I'll stop sharing, turn my camera off before Sam turns it off, and turn the show over to Chris. Chris, it's all yours.
Chief, I greatly appreciate it. I love the opportunity, and I love the continuing support that you have for our firefighters across all of North America. Let's see if I can get a little bit more technical. We'll see if my laptop can get that all working. Before I start kicking into this, Chief, can you verify that I do have that PowerPoint working?
Yes, looks good to me.
Outstanding. Well, everybody, it's awesome to see all the different names, all the different states and provinces, the national/international collaboration that we have with lithium-ion batteries is huge. And the big thing that I think the why there's so many people in here isn't because of my beautiful smiling face. It's because of those words, lithium-ion batteries. There's more than enough training that's out there, but we still have to continue to discuss it. And my recommendation to everybody that is listening in, go and look at everybody that is talking about it. There's good conversations, there's bad conversations, there's competing conversations. Last night, I was working with my good friend Adam McFadden from Firehouse Training. He did an EV PowerPoint, EV presentation with a few other select high quality friends, and he puts out a lot of great training. He's going to be doing a few more trainings here soon. So shout out to him. But you're going to see a lot of QR codes in tonight's presentation with other friends, other partners, other competitors, and we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the why of all of this. So before I get into this, yes, we've got a lot of slides and we're going to hit the ground running fast. I'm going to give a reminder for some people that have been in here on what a lithium-ion battery fire is and how it works, and that's going to get us into understanding the strategies and tactics. The reason I like to do this is because for all of us that have been through fire academies, you typically don't have just an algorithm for a structure fire. And when you see exactly this, you do this. When you see exactly this, you do this. When you see this, you do this. There's some algorithms that we use in EMS, in fire response, in auto extrication, in technical rescue and hazmat, but we don't really work that way. We do a risk-based response. That's what the NFPA recommends, and that's what we go for. How do you get to a risk-based response? It's understanding the problem. We learn about building construction in structure fires because we want to understand how the fire is trapped within this structure and how the building is going to be affected by the fire. The same thing goes with our lithium-ion batteries. So that's what we're going to start with. We're going to fly through that, and then we're going to start talking about the tools and what we should think about for all of our basic forms of lithium-ion batteries. Before I throw on through here, you can see right here back on July 16th, one of the fire marshals in a state down here in the United States, I don't need to call them out, you can see the picture if you want, they talked about these unapproved lithium battery class L fire extinguishers. Over in other countries, there is a class L fire extinguisher. But I want you to understand and see even the best, and I don't know these people, so I'm not bashing them, even the best get it wrong. Take a look at the type of extinguishers that they're talking about right there. Type A. Oh, Class A extinguishers for wood, paper, and textiles. Class B extinguishers for flammable liquids. Class C, flammable gases. What's that about? Let's see if I can make my PowerPoint clicker work right now. That's a European standard. So they even pulled a picture from a European standard. It's important for us to see that even the experts sometimes get it wrong. So that's the big thing, is continue to push on and identify from other people and learn as we continue to go on. So really quickly, here we go, hitting the ground running, flying. The anatomy of a lithium-ion battery. We have cells, we have batteries, we have modules, we have a lot of different terms on it. And our batteries are framed out, our cells, the cells themselves are framed out as a cylindrical, a prismatic, and a pouch. Think about a cylindrical like a AA battery or a D cell battery. Those are alkaline batteries. For my lithium ion, it's going to be an 18650, a 27 or 2780. There's a lot of different numbers for that. We don't need to get into that science for the tactics today. They're round. They're put together with a jelly roll. A prismatic is a cylindrical cell that's squished. It's pretty much just a rectangle that has the same type of jelly roll of an anode, a cathode, a separator, and the electrolyte all within there. It's all squished into a certain format, and we do have relief valves that you see right there on the top of my cylindrical cell we could have relief valves on the top of my prismatic. Inside our cell phones, our tablets, and some of our laptops, we'll see pouch cells as well. These things are pretty much, you may have already seen them. If we start seeing a thermal runaway event, they start ballooning up, they start turning into a pillow. A cell is that single encased unit. A battery is a mixture of all these cells and a battery management system. I know my screen's really small here, but let's take a look at my power tool battery. And inside my battery, I have cells. I have cylindrical cells. I have a battery management system, and this is a battery. I have a power tool battery, and it is holding cells. So just understanding that basic context of what a cell and a battery is. Where are we going to see them and where are we going to put them? Look at that beautiful hot rod up there on the top left. We have our EVs. That is my 2024 Dodge Charger electric vehicle with a 100.5 kilowatt hour battery, 670 horsepower. It's absolutely the fastest accelerating vehicle I have. But doesn't have as much passion as our internal combustion engines. But that's something that we're talking about tonight. Another thing that you need to look at and understand is our e-mobility or our micro-mobility devices, those Lime and those Bird scooters, or our personal scooters, the one wheels. What about forklifts? What about golf carts? We have a lot of tools. If it can be powered, it can be powered by lithium-ion batteries. So yeah, I have my scooters there, but there's a whole wide range of other things that could be placed in there. We have our handheld portables. Yeah, I put air monitors in there because I'm a hazmat nerd, but we can have our thermal imaging cameras, our temperature guns, our power tool batteries, other items like that. These are small batteries, and this is a big issue that we may end up seeing inside structure fires. We have our energy storage systems. They can be large systems and units like this shipping container, which is going to be a little bit different than a normal shipping container. We have very, very large arrays like what we saw a few months ago in Moss Landing back in January of 2025. It ended up catching on fire. That was a very, very large unit. Heck, we can even have small units that might be in the garage of people's houses. We're going to talk more on that later. And then anything else. We can have planes, trains, ferries. We can have a ton of stuff without a doubt. So now I got to re-click my PowerPoint right there. Hopefully that works. There we go. So really quickly on the terminology of all that, we also have different qualities of the construction. Just like every type of car, I see that we have somebody up there in the area where my car was built. I'm guessing that's up there in Brampton. Yeah, hey, the Dodge Charger, it's a high quality machine. Okay, it's gone under a few recalls. Windsor, I apologize. But we see the Dodge is a good car. Well, if I want to get a little more high class, I'm going to go with the Chrysler. The reason I'm going with my Chrysler products is because I've got my tattoo, Mopar, no car. But if we just go into, let's go to a different platform of manufacturer, General Motors. A Chevy is a quality vehicle. A Cadillac is the top of the line. You go to other vehicles, the lower quality lines like a Geo, and you're going to have different qualities. Our batteries are listed like this as well. Batteries that are going to be in our electric vehicles are going to be tier 1 batteries, high quality, well refined, very tight tolerances. These are good batteries. The majority of our batteries that we have, the batteries that are probably in this power tool, are going to be tier 2 batteries. They're good, they're high quality, but they're not as well refined and as expensive as a tier 1. The ones that we're going to find down at the corner store that are going to be in a vape pen or any portable power bank, that's our tier 3 batteries. These are extremely cheap. And when somebody looks at Amazon or any other type of market to buy batteries, do you want to buy the $1 battery, the $3 battery, or the $10 battery? They all look the exact same on the outside, but the construction on the inside is very different. So what we're starting to face at the issue is these tier 3 batteries. I apologize. Before I go off of this, my good friend Patrick Durham from Stash Training, he has a really good video that talks about tier 1, 2, and 3 batteries. That QR code goes to his YouTube page where he does pretty much 2 or 3 videos a week on lithium-ion battery and other target hazards for incidents. So some pretty good training and some good information that Patrick brings out there. Really quickly, when it comes on down, and Patrick does have a video on that as well, Jim, for or John, for the Philly bus fire. Battery terminology, when we sit there and take a look at it, we have an anode and cathode. Anode and cathode, that's where we end up catching and throwing our electrons. The ions are the ions of our battery, and the electrons go through our circuit. And we keep the anode and cathode from touching each other by having a separator. That separator is an extremely thin, think of it as a plastic bag from a grocery store. It's unbelievably thin. It keeps the two pieces of metal from touching and shorting out. The ions are going to travel through an electrolyte. This is just basic battery terminology. We're just putting it into a lithium-ion battery sense. The electrolyte in my lithium-ion battery is lithium hexafluorophosphate. Heck, I had to become a hazmat technician just to learn how to say that. But the lithium hexafluorophosphate is a salt. A salt, like table salt, doesn't really flow like a liquid. Table salt isn't a liquid, it's salt. How do you make table salt a liquid? Well, you put it in water or some other product or some other medium. My lithium hexafluorophosphate, we're going to put in my flammable volatile organic compounds. And that's where we have the problem. These flammable VOCs are what is causing the fire of a lithium-ion battery incident. A lead-acid battery consists of lead and acid. The sulfuric acid inside a lead-acid battery is the electrolyte, and that sulfuric acid is not flammable. Inside my alkaline batteries, I have potassium hydroxide and water, a salt and a liquid. Potassium hydroxide and water isn't flammable. You see that we have that flammable VOC. So that's the problem. And you put this down to its root cause, you start understanding where we're having challenges in our strategies and our tactics. The last two things in there are just understanding the terminology of our batteries. The state of charge is literally how much charge you have in the battery. Let me take a look at my cell phone here. I have 98%. This thing's been sitting on the charger all afternoon. The battery is at 98% SOC, state of charge. My Dodge Charger is down on the charge. My charger is on the charger. It's on a charging device, and I can guarantee it's topped off right now. I top it off to 80% SOC. And what makes sure that it's properly charged and the temperature is good and the battery's all happy is my battery management system. This slide is going to be a really quick slide. You see a lot of chemistry, a lot of things going on here. I want you to understand the lithium-ion battery isn't always a lithium-ion battery. Well, it is, but it isn't. There's a wide range of lithium-ion batteries that manufacturers decide with different chemistries that are safer, that are stronger, that are longer lasting. Think about if we have any car people or boat people or people that have RVs, think about a lead acid battery. When we hear lead acid battery, it's just a normal lead acid battery, but we have deep cell batteries as well for boats and RVs. They're a lead acid battery as well, but the chemistry is a little bit different. For us in the lithium-ion battery context, an energy storage system is going to have a different battery than an EV, which is going to have a different battery than my cell phone. And because of that, when it ends up releasing its contents with propagation and thermal runaway, that means the gases coming out might be a little bit different in their mixture. That's what I just want you to understand from there. And you'll see this slide right here. I think this came from FSRI or the ATF. You'll notice on the top right there, if you don't see my logo, I got this slide from another good friend, and I'm using it with credit from them. I'll have a slide at the end providing credit to all those individuals because there's a lot of people standing behind me that have gathered all this information. That's why I'm trying to share this information with you so you can contact those friends as well. But what makes a lithium-ion battery go into thermal runaway? Well, anything. External heating, overcharging, over discharging, high current charging, structural damage. Oh my gosh. Let's go back to the root here. The separator is keeping the anode and the cathode from touching. If the separator fails, you're going to start having thermal runaway. What makes a separator fail? All those things. Think about a plastic bag from the grocery store. If I end up putting 10 soup cans in the plastic bag and I drop that plastic bag onto the countertop, will it tear? Yes. If I put a lighter a few inches underneath it and expose it to much heat, will it fail? Yes. If I put 2 watermelons into a shopping bag, will it fail? Yes. All of these issues cause the failure of my separator, which now causes a short circuit, which then will eventually cause potentially thermal runaway. And that thermal runaway can happen right now, or it can happen tomorrow, or the next day or next week or next month. It's all dependent, and that's the whole thing is identifying. We don't understanding that we don't have all the clues and tools and techniques to be able to identify this. So this came from the ATF. They X-rayed an 18650 battery. You can see the anode, the cathode, the separator, and they're externally heating this battery right now. As it's starting to heat up, the liquid electrolyte, it's kind of like a gel, is starting to overpressurize. When we increase the temperature of a liquid, we increase its vapor pressure. Temperature and pressure are joined at the hip. As we continue to see this increase in pressure, the separators are starting to fail. The anode and cathode, they're starting to get crushed and squeezed. And the last thing we want is for this liquid to immediately turn into a vapor. That is a blast, leveling everything very effectively. I apologize. I mean a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. We have an expansion ratio for these batteries when they end up having this incident. That is 1 cell to 8 liters of vapor. Now, with different chemicals, it's going to be different amounts. But you put this in a general rule of thumb world, when we get 1 kilowatt hour of energy, we can get up to 1,000 liters of gas being released from like a scooter. That's a lot of gas. That's a lot of expansion. We don't when we see a propane tank and flame impingement on it, we freak out. I'm not going to say we're freaking out outside. We don't let the public see that, but we know that the pressure is on. No pun intended. That we have to start cooling that tank, or we have to evacuate immediately per the emergency response guidebook. So understanding that helps us out. The difference is my little blevies are hidden inside the container. So we don't see the blevies. When we don't see it, we don't think there's a problem. So it's important to recognize that inside all these batteries, we have those cells, and it's not going to be a blevy, but we have that release of a lot of vapors that are coming from that. What are these vapors? Well, we have our semi-volatile organic compounds like hydrogen chloride, sulfur dioxide. We have our hazmat-y looking chemicals. We have my flammable VOCs, my propylene, my methane, my ethane, my ethylene. We have the toxic twins from all structure fires, hydrogen cyanide and carbon monoxide. There's the fluoride from the lithium hexafluorophosphate. There's the hydrogen fluoride, which reacts really readily to water and a lot of other products. And then we see hydrogen gas, which is extremely explosive, not flammable, explosive. And then I have the word cobalt, because that opens us up to a whole new wide world of metal nanoparticles. My metal nanoparticles, the majority of the battery is constructed with metal. We have aluminum, we have copper, we have the cobalt, we have lead, we have nickel, manganese, we have strontium doping, we have zinc, we have all these different products in there. And when that cell catches on fire and releases all the contents inside there, the metals are released in particulates smaller than 0.2 microns. And this gets us down to the potential for dermal exposure and deep lung exposure. The smoke and the vapor and the steam from a lithium-ion battery event is not water vapor. It is not just punking end of action fire. This F-150 Lightning, that white smoke, is the metals from this battery. And this firefighter with his SCBA pack on is taking good deep breaths of particulates that can get down deep into his lungs and into his bloodstream. Timmy, stop eating those paint chips. Why did we worry about that for the last 40 years? Oh, because lead is bad. Don't lick the paint chips. When a mercury light bulb or CFL fluorescent light bulb breaks, the EPA considers this room a hazmat scene because mercury is bad, right? This stuff is in these batteries, but we're not seeing them. That's the problem. We don't recognize the chronic risk. What's the problem with the kids eating the paint chips and the kids licking the mercury? The neurological damage that is a chronic issue. That's what we're worried about. We don't see it as an acute issue, so this firefighter probably felt sick for a few days, didn't care about it. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. I don't think he's a moron and dumb, anything like that. But he needs to be putting his freaking mask on. Wear your mask. Let's take a look what FSRI has been doing. This is an older video, and we sit there and take a look. They took this battery on this scooter, and I think 150% state of charge. Now watch that top left, there it is going, and now look at the bottom left video. We're taking a look at the bottom left video right now. I'm gonna give you a temperature. We're 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see here, 52 degrees, 54 degrees. Let's see here, 50, 71, 11, 53. FSRI has done a lot of great work with us in the structural firefighting context of building instruction and fire dynamics instruction. And they taught us that our predecessors way back in the day, Chief Ed Man would know this really well, our true smoke eaters. They had up to 28 minutes before the structure went into flashover. They were worried about backdraft. Back in 1991, one of the best movies ever was created, and that was Backdraft. If it was recreated today, it would be called Flashover. When we see our flashover for most of my structures now, they go into flashover in about 3 minutes and 48 seconds or 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Lithium-ion batteries, look at that. That is less than 30 seconds. There it is, tones drop. We finally get out of the recliner, we start rolling down to the rig, we start bunking up, and what? Within 1 minute, we're supposed to be rolling out the door. Sorry, guys, flashover's already happened. It's no longer a structural firefighters game. It's the prevention game. This is my office. I'm the prevention guy. I have to worry about this with the fire. Okay, the structural firefighters, we still have to worry about this. We need to recognize the limitations that we have, but we have to work in conjunction with our prevention office, because the only way that we can beat that is with community risk reduction and code development, which we're all working on heavily. So let's see about when we get there. There's my fire captain out there in Colorado. And yes, his helmet was strapped around his chin. That is a lot of force. His firefighters were inside. They were making entry from, I think, the kitchen into the garage. That is a Jeep 4xe, which has had a ton of recalls. That battery has enough energy to explode that garage. That is the pressure relief device for my garages. So if you're doing structural fire response, if you're doing a smoke investigation of any house inside your first due, and you think that there might be an energy storage system, a Jeep, a hybrid, an electric vehicle, don't stand next to the garage door. Try to find another path of entry. That garage door is the relief device for that garage. So don't stand in front of it. Be aware of that hazard. We ended up doing some math, and I'm just going to tell you, math isn't always true, especially if I'm doing it, because I don't even know. I have to take off my boots and my socks to figure out what 12 is. But when we end up doing the math of this, that single car garage right there, if you have 2 scooters, there's enough gas to come out of those scooters to cause a deflagration/detonation event, which will blow that door off. So that Jeep, which has, I think it's a 17 kilowatt hour battery, don't quote me on that one, I don't have them all memorized, that has more than enough energy to go boom. My energy storage systems, it could be in a garage, they have enough energy to go boom. So we have to be aware of that. Let's take a look at another one. This is going on to the other side of the world, but this is a battery manufacturer, an aftermarket illegal battery manufacturer. I think he was on the 14th floor. That's some energy right there. You're rolling up to the 14th floor for a fire incident. That is the energy that we're looking at. If you're on the 14th floor at that time, that is a ton of energy that we have to be aware of. These gases are going to ignite. They are going to vent. They are going to go somewhere. We need to do what we can to try to give it a path. We need to make sure that we are not in the path. Just like structure fires, you do not want to be in the flow path, right? The same thing here. This flow path's a lot faster, isn't it? Understanding some of the trends right here, I'm taking a look at Fire Rover. This is a really good program for the salvage and tow and waste transfer industry. And this is just fires at transfer stations and garbage trucks and where they establish their equipment. And you can see that there's been a trend from 16 going up to now that we are having more fire incidents. That's at recycling facilities, but it's still the same everywhere else. But you also see that we have more incidents in the summer because warmer is more energy, more hot, more issues. A garbage disposal company just last week here in my jurisdiction ended up having a garbage truck fire from multiple scooters that were thrown away. So highway incidents are happening once every 2 weeks. That is pretty significant, and we're trying to do work on that, and I'll show you an article on discussion that Patrick Durham and I put together for that. Airline incidents are happening almost 2 times a week. Oh, wait, let's sit here and take a look. Southwest Airlines now doesn't allow you to put your laptop just in its bag. All your lithium-ion batteries have to be within reach of you. So our airlines are changing their tactics because they see this a problem. We're seeing up to 2,400 facility fires annually at waste treatment facilities. We have more incidents in the summer. Before I get onto this UK estimate, one of the biggest pieces of news that I didn't put in, I saw it yesterday. Patrick had a good video with Sal. I can't remember Sal's last name, but it's what's shipping with Sal. He just talked about they had a roll-on, roll-off vessel that was going from Asia to Mexico. It just sunk in the Bering Sea a few last month. And in kind, Matson Shipping has just banned all electric vehicles and hybrids from being on any of their vessels worldwide. So if we as firefighters aren't looking at this problem, we're being kind of blind to this. The shipping industry, the airline industry, the trucking industry, the rail industry, the codes, everybody else is talking about this as an issue. So we need to recognize what we're looking at here. So look at these vape pens right here, most likely tier 3 batteries. If we extrapolate what the UK estimates are, there's almost 48 million vape pens that are thrown away incorrectly. Oh my gosh, it's time for me to grab my computer bag. Hang on, I got something cool here for you guys. One of my good friends works for a contract cleaner company for hazardous materials. And 3 weeks ago, he told me about how they had a safety brief. We always have to have those safety briefs. There's always a name attached to a safety brief, right? And in the safety brief with these hazmat contract cleaning companies, the supervisor had to give them a stern heads up. Guys, stop throwing your vape pens in the trash. The Hazmat contract cleaning company that is contracted to clean up lithium-ion batteries had to tell their cleaners to not throw them away. I would be shocked, except for this cool thing right here. This is a hand warmer. This is a lithium-ion battery. This is a 1,000 milliwatt hour battery right there. I know it's really, really fuzzy. There it is. It popped in for a second. It's a tiny little hand warmer. It doesn't work anymore. One of my fire chiefs, while I was sitting in the office behind me, threw this in the trash. He's like, "It doesn't work anymore." I'm like, "Dude, are you serious? Don't throw the batteries in the trash because this tiny little battery isn't going to be the end of the world when it gets crushed. It's going to start a fire, though. It's going to start the fire in the middle of a hopper of a garbage truck, which is going to propagate to the entirety of a garbage truck. And your local garbage truck company is going to lose a $250,000 vehicle. Or if that doesn't happen, it's going to catch on fire at the transfer station and it's going to turn into a conflagration event, which you're going to need emergency management, your LAPC, plume modeling, and a massive cleanup just because of this dorky little thing. Don't throw these in the trash. All right. Oh man, that was I tried to fly through it and we're about half an hour in. This is where we get to the real meat and potatoes. So if you were tuning out, it's time to tune back in. How do we fight these fires? Well, how do the flight attendants take care of it? Well, they got the av sacks, they've got this little battery blanket bag, they've got gloves, they've got a little blanket to put them in. It works well for those portable devices, whether it be a vape pen, a hand warmer, a laptop computer. They have a few different techniques. I'm not going to say it's perfect and it's amazing, but they all are trained. All flight attendants are trained on this. Do not check your lithium ion batteries. If your batteries are down in the cargo hold, they can't do anything on it. There's no extinguishing tools. They can't crawl on down there and get them. The plane could crash. That's the biggest fear that we're looking at. Captain Chris Green right there, Fire in the Sky, a pilot's worst nightmare. This is a few years ago. This is a good article that talks about what this issue is. So once again, make sure to not to carry on your lithium-ion batteries. Try to keep them at a lower state of charge. I know that's difficult to do, but that's a really good article, good information right there. But the airline industry has been dealing with this for years. If anybody remembers back about 10 years ago, the Samsung Note 7 is no longer allowed to be flying on planes. Well, they've known about it for over a decade, so they've got some tools, but they're only worrying about the consumer commodities because they can only have so big of a battery on a plane. Let's take a look at what we all signed up for right here. we've got our under vehicle spraying tools. Here's one that I created, and no, I'm not selling it. I created it for my fire department. I literally took a decon manifold that hooks up to a 2.5. It has 6 garden hose connections. We've already had that. I went down to the hardware store and I bought 6 sprinkler heads. The end. It flows about 120 gallons per minute. Can we shove it under a car? Yeah, but there's more expensive ones than other ones. We have under vehicle penetrating tools. We have a company out there. You slide this device under a car, it stabs in a carbide tip, and it can spray water, I think, at 8 gallons per minute. So now we've got the water into the box. Possibly a good tool. We have above vehicle penetrating nozzles. We have our fire assault nozzle here with a 3000 psi water injection system that has sand or a media that's integrated with it. It's sent at high pressure, and this thing can cut through over a 1/4 inch of plate steel. Awesome stuff. We're talking about high pressure, low volume, almost European fire tactics. We have exposure protection tools. The old fire blanket. It's gonna keep me warm at night, right? My fire blankets, okay? We have other tools as well. This can help keep the fire from going to something else, or it can keep the fire from going on to something else. We have extinguishment tools. Yes, we have our foams, our encapsulating agents. I don't know, that good old high quality H2O. There's a lot of extinguishment tools, and there's others like the dunk pool that you see down there on the left. That's more of a European thing as well, and they've been working on that for a while. You want to learn all about these tools and you want to know the ins and outs. That's what you came here for. These are all defensive tools. There's some minor rare exceptions. Everybody that is in this chat, is in this class, that is in this program, you are building strategies, tactics, concepts, ideas on firefighting response capabilities. Your thought process should be offensive in nature. It is life safety 100% power. It's paramount. The person that's in the car, the person that's in the house, the person that's near an energy storage system, you need to rescue them first. You treat the fire as if it's a fire. Beyond that, you make sure that you yourself are protected with your PPE and smart tactics and tools. Mark, don't you worry. I'm going to be coming up to that soon. This is just our little precursor. I got to keep you guys hanging on for a little bit here. So let's get into what our tactics are for offensive response. We're going to talk about defensive response here soon, but I care about offensive. Life safety, property conservation, incident stabilization. If you have a lithium-ion battery, bink, bink, cell phones, laptops, tablets, heated jackets, power tools, I don't care what it is. You treat this fire as if it's a normal structure fire. We pull the 1 3/4 off the hose line. We pack up, we mask up. We make sure that we have our 2 in, 2 out. We make sure we are efficient, make sure that we're safe. We make sure we do everything we can to rescue the victims that are inside that house and keep the fire from expanding to the rest of the structure. Kill the fire, you kill the problem. Now, on my smaller items, they're probably going to be out by the time we get there, but we're still going to have to find them at the end. We're going to talk about that. Wear your full PPE. You need to have your face mask on. I've already shown you one little video and one little clip right there, actually 2, where firefighters were not wearing their masks. I don't know what this is, if it's happened within the last 5 years, or if I just forgot about it when I was on the rig 4 or 5 years ago. I still rock on the rig every now and then, but wear your freaking mask. If I'm going to put on a 45-pound SCBA, I should probably use the air that's inside it. Wear your freaking mask. Go on air. Here's an example of a fire we investigated with a neighboring jurisdiction. This is heated socks. That's correct. In Washington State, we have heated socks. You would think that's kind of an issue because of how moist it gets around here. Wet feet and electric socks, not really good. I'm not going to say that I have any, but this was a fun little investigation. Here's some of the things that you got to think about. I would not be surprised with the heated socks up there in North Dakota there, John. I love it. But we see this lithium-ion battery. It's a prismatic cell, and we see the little burn pattern right there. The other battery was what caught on fire, and we were able to identify, not completely, that it most likely was a cat chewing on the battery. You see up there on the far right, you see the puncture holes of the cat's teeth in the anode and the cathode. We have the anode of copper, the cathode of aluminum right there. The tooth penetrated, punctured that little plastic bag. We had a short out. We had a fire. Is this a massive structure fire that needs a full complement? No, this is probably done with an engine company, a water can. Okay, cool. We're still going to call a fire investigator because we do have some burns, but I want you to think about those metal nanoparticles that came on out. This is at the end of the event right now. Are there metal nanoparticles on the walls? Are there on the ceiling? Are there on the drapes, on the floor, on the bedding, in the house? Depending on the age of the person, do you want your child to be rolling around in metal nanoparticles or be succumbing to a nickel metal allergy 4 to 5 years from now? This is where a conversation with the insurance company has to happen. Now, this is not our job, but we still need to, because you have the awareness. You need to inform the fire investigator and subsequently the homeowner. Hey, you guys should probably have an abatement right here. This is bad. This is toxic stuff. This isn't just a normal fire. This is a lithium-ion battery. Even that tiny little lithium-ion battery, it can produce a significant amount of smoke. Some of us may remember a few months ago, we ended up having the good old Chromebook challenge. The Chromebook challenge is where those kids would take those kids, any kids, lots of kids, they would take a paper clip and they would shove it into the USB port of their laptop that was provided by their school. The laptop of the Chromebooks at schools that are typically given out is a rather small battery. And we ended up doing extrapolation of how much smoke and toxic products were released from them. And we started thinking about what about the backpacks? What about the jackets that were left in the classroom? What about the walls? What about the desk surfaces? We worked with the EPA. The EPA said at least the clothing and backpacks need to have a wash. It could be washed in a normal laundry gear equipment, and then every hard surface needed to be wiped down. So it's important. It comes down to understanding the size of the room you're in, the size of the battery that we have, and the population that's being affected. If I have children around, they're more susceptible, as well as our elderly patients. If we are in an industrial setting, a large, massive warehouse, like what Michael's asking about, what about hearing aids? Can what hearing aids, can they be just as bad if they're thrown away? Yes, they can start a fire. Any lithium-ion battery can absolutely do this. But if I had a lithium-ion battery that was going down a different direction with that, I do have lithium-ion. I have hearing aids as well, and they're lithium-ion. If I have one of those go off in a classroom, do I need to really worry about a full abatement? That's a really, really small battery. It's a judgment call on that one. We need to make sure that this stuff is down below not just occupational hazard levels, but public health and safety levels. So if I'm looking at a battery that's this big, this one's a thousand milliamp hour battery. If this went off in this room, I would probably consider this room contaminated. This went off out in my app bay, which is holding a ladder truck, a fire engine, a squad, a medic unit, a battalion chief. I probably wouldn't think about it nearly as much. I'd still probably wash all the soft surfaces. I'd probably throw my bunker gear into an extractor eventually. Wouldn't freak out nearly as much in a larger setting based on the population. Let's continue on with the structure fire response and get away from these and start getting into things like scooters or our energy storage system or our power banks or something like that. You can see that scooter right there. I don't have this as a video, but I will tell you right now, 2 seconds prior to where that picture is, it was just venting. It takes off immediately. You cannot respond. If you're around a lithium-ion battery in a structure fire, you need to be on air. The Hazmat guys just did an episode 505. This is 2 weeks ago, and they had a story where somebody, a firefighter, hazmat technician, sent in a submission to them and talked about how they were disposing of batteries, and he was going down a stairwell, and the battery went into thermal runaway. 3 to 5 seconds. 3 to 5 seconds. You can't put your mask on and get on air in 3 to 5 seconds. So you have to prepare as if. So we need to get the batteries out. We need to make sure the batteries are not within our path of egress. But to learn more right there, go check out the Hazmat guys, and they have a ton a ton of more resources when it comes on down to lithium-ion batteries. Do not leave these large batteries in our path of egress. If I go into a structure fire, God, I remember the old school days. You take the ancient three-quarter, pencil the ceiling. We don't pencil the ceiling now. We paint the walls. Right? We coat the surface because we want to cool all of those surfaces. So as we go 20, 30, 40 feet inside the structure, the hallway behind me doesn't catch on fire. So don't just walk past the scooter that could easily go into thermal runaway. You keep your egress path clear. Move the scooter, move anything that looks like it could be a battery out of your path of egress. Yeah, it's preferable to get it outside, but I just need to get it out of my path of egress for right now, right? Once again, it's just shifting our thought process on this. I'm focusing right now on the ordinary combustibles. Fight the fire as if it's a fire, because it is a fire. Photo document that scene prior to overhaul. Our fire investigators need to get out there sooner to try to do this, but if they're still going to be 2, 3, 4 hours out, you're going to have your officers go and take a few pictures of where those batteries are, because those batteries have got to get out. We're starting to see more rekindles in the fire service, and a lot of it is because of these things. Think about that separator again, and that anode and that cathode. That can fail, and if it fails just at a microscopic level, that short circuit inside that battery doesn't immediately go into thermal runaway. It punks and it festers and it sits and it builds up and it slowly builds up and it continues to build up. And then eventually 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours later, it finally ignites. And then you have a rekindle, and then B shift just hammers you, right? So that's one of the things that we got to worry about and focus on. You need to get the batteries out of the house. I'm not saying that we all need to start doing overpacks. A lot of hazmat teams are doing that. We don't need to be putting them into products like Combustion. This is a good one. This is a granular suppressant. It absorbs the gases, and it'll actually do a phase change from a solid to a liquid back to a solid, and it'll melt and make a nice crusty capper on it. This is a shipping medium. It costs a lot of money, and there's a proper way to overpack this. This is a contractor's job, not a firefighter's job. For us, get the batteries out of the house, get them away from the house. That's all I care about. That's what I really, really care about. We'll talk about air mods here shortly. I saw a few questions on that. If I don't get to it, remind me. Once you get done, contact the EPA or your state equivalent for your environmental or environment ecology type of organization, or contact the hazmat team. Make sure that they're aware of it. It's going to be up to them if they want to come out or don't want to come out. At the end of the day, wash your gear, log your exposures. We're going to talk more about washing your gear here in a second. Structure fires, treat them like a normal structure fire. Get the batteries out of your path of egress. When we get done, photo document and get the batteries out. Let's go a little bit bigger, shall we? Our micromobilities. This could be inside the structure. This could be outside the structure. This is a big thing that we have to think about, and this is where a lot of questions have to come on in. Wear your full PPE, even if it's outside. I watched the video of some firefighters over on the East Coast. I don't need to mention the state or the department. This is a few years ago. This is before we really knew everything. They were fighting a lawnmower fire, and none of the firefighters had an SCBA on. It's just a lawnmower fire. Who cares? Let's just go back. Let's not even worry about the batteries. The plastics on any lawnmower that we have, the gasoline that's out there, is that toxic, dangerous smoke? Yes, but I can stay out of the smoke. But why? Why? You have an SCBA, you have a mask, put the freaking pack on. Once again, with these metal nanoparticles, with these semi-volatile organic compounds, with these dangerous toxicants, 1 or 2 breaths is enough to cause you significant long-term injuries in an acute or a chronic issue. So wear all your PPE, even if it's outside. Protect exposures. Our brothers and sisters down in LA just recently fought a skid steer battery. Patrick Durham of Stash Training just put out a video last night about it, and it was kind of fun watching. They're lobbing water from a long distance away. Now, one of the big things I understand is, hey, we're taught to fight fire, chop, 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 ah. Well, that's what we do. So we don't want the public watching us doing nothing, standing by watching. We're not fire watchers, we're firefighters, right? So these guys are lobbing water on it. They're kind of doing Hollywood water. Good job, LA. And I don't remember if it was LA City or county. I'm not trying to bash any of them. I don't think they did anything horribly wrong. But Patrick said a really good point. There was a skid steer like 5 feet away from the one that was on fire. Hey, if you got somebody that's trained, get in that skid steer and at least pull it away. Get the vehicle away. Make sure that they're wearing their full PPE. Protect the exposures. Consider allowing it to burn though. Depending on where we're at, depending on what's going on, once it catches on fire, it's garbage. There's no value left to it. If you do knock it down and you are successful, now the timer's ticking. The battery can go into thermal runaway in an hour, in 3 hours, in 6 hours, in the next day, in the next week. If you just let it burn and you burn the batteries all the ways out, the problem is gone. The disposal of lithium-ion batteries is not a cheap premise. It costs a ton of money to overpack and dispose of them. If you just let it burn up and away, there's no overpacking that has to happen. Sometimes it's better just to let it burn. Protect the exposures and just watch the show. Contact the EPA, your state equivalent. Contact your hazmat team for the disposals. We take care of this. It's not our job to overpack and dispose of this, right? That's the big thing. Let's see here. Unburn. Yeah, so we see that right there. Thank you, Michael. Absolutely, and that's what we've seen for the last few years. A lot of the thought process has been shifting on. Hey, this isn't our job. We didn't do this during hazmat. We shouldn't be doing this now. Now we were able to get our heads wrapped around it really quickly with hazmat. It's taken a little bit of time for us in the battery sphere. I don't think firefighters should be doing overpacking and disposal. It's a for-profit business for those companies, and it's a requirement by EPA and federal law. And if we do it wrong, Dalen Zartman talks about this with the ESA. If we do it wrong, then we can get fined. That's what we have to watch out for this. Wash your gear and log your exposures. I don't care if the fire was outside. I don't care if you don't think that you were exposed. Wash your gear, log your exposures. To learn more about micromobility types of fires, whether it be scooters, e-bikes, one-wheels, forklifts, or anything when it comes down to energy, check out the IAFF Energy Hazard Guide. And don't sit there and think, well, I'm not an IAFF firefighter, so nope, you're free. Everybody, anybody, every firefighter can get this. You just have to create an account with the IAFF, but they put this together for us, not for IAFF union firefighters, for all of us. That's the big thing. I verified from the writer of this and the senior members of the IAFF this morning. So this is an amazing resource. We are all working together to make sure that we get the training. And this is not just training on lithium-ion batteries. As Captain Chris Green, who helped write this, the batteries are the tip of the energy battleship. Start thinking about single phase and 3-phase energy, switch gear rooms, high energy, low energy. Do you know all about the energy that's in commercial and residential structures? Do you know about the energy hazards that you have within your jurisdiction? When's the last time we really had a class on it? So this is an amazing, amazing resource. That's why I'm kind of dragging my feet on this. So you can hit that QR code or take a picture of that, because this is a great, great free resource for all of us. Okay, so we have some other resources as well. Another article that Chris Green and myself wrote for EV charging stations and the e-stop dilemma. Think about your gas stations. Do gas stations have emergency stops? Absolutely. Every single one since 1984 has to have one. You know where your level 3 DC fast chargers have e-stops? They're not supposed to. Now, in 2026, the National Electric Code finally got updated. Both Captain Green and myself, we were able to get that updated with the help of many, many other people. So we got that taken care of. So EV fire response, wear your full PPE, even if it's outside. Duh. Life safety is our game now. Guys, don't think about the boogeyman. I don't care if it's an EV. I don't care if it's a hybrid. I don't care if it's a car, if it's a truck. You get in there and you get in there ASAP and you check that vehicle for occupants. That is what our job is. This is what we get paid the big bucks for. You roll up to the fire scene, your third or your fourth, you should be on air and you should be able to jump on out rather quickly, pull a hose line in a very, very quick fashion, and you should be able to get into that car and access it to get any occupants out. And of course, sometimes you got to check the trunk as well. but life safety is #1 critical. Now, wear all of your full PPE first, but get in there. I don't care about if it's an EV for these first 2 minutes. I just care if there's people in the car, period. Get them out. After we take care of that, we start protecting exposures. This car fire may be burning hot and it may be burning for a long time. Now, if you've listened to any EV battery or lithium-ion battery classes, you may have been told that lithium-ion batteries are hotter than normal fires. These fires burn up to 4,000 degrees. That's an oxyacetylene torch. Oxyacetylene torches burn blue. Do lithium-ion battery fires look like they're blue? No. Lithium-ion battery fires are a little bit warmer. We heard this when we went from legacy fuels to modern fuels. The fires back in Grandpa's day, they were not nearly as hot as today's fires. No, the heat release rate is different in our modern fuels compared to legacy fuels. But absolutely, I'll tell you right now, FSRI is still wrapping up the testing. They got a bunch of paperwork on this. The heat release rate from an electric vehicle and an ICE, internal combustion engine, is the same. They produce the same amount of heat. The temperatures are about the same. The only difference is when a single cell goes into thermal runaway and it vents out and it torches out, that flaming torching fire is about 300 to 400 degrees hotter. We're going, instead of 1,400 to 1,600 degrees for our fires, we're looking at sometimes up to 2,200 degrees. So it is a hotter fire than a structure fire. A normal car fire is hotter than a normal structure fire. When I say hotter, I mean heat release rate. Good question there, Jeremy. The batteries in electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles are the same. Absolutely. Any vehicle after 2018 is pretty much lithium-ion batteries. You look at older Toyotas, the Prius, prior to 2018, those were NiCad batteries, or nickel metal hydride. Those batteries did not have the flammable electrolyte. You still had the energy potential, but you didn't have the flammability potential. Every car, every EV now, and every hybrid, that's why I try to say EV and hybrid. I should have added that on the title slide. I apologize. But EVs and hybrids, they all are running lithium-ion batteries now, and we're seeing them more and more everywhere. Consider allowing it to burn. Once we get the people out, the car is totaled. The car is garbage. The car is done for. And if you are successful, which you can be, if you are successful to extinguish the lithium-ion battery fire, it can catch the fire. It can catch on fire in an hour, in 3 hours, in 6 hours, tomorrow, next week, and it still continues that long going problem. If we just let it burn and protect the exposures, we've stopped the problem at the end. Now, of course, we have to spend a little bit more time there. And some of the arguments came on down to optics. Well, do you really want the public to sit there watching a fire? That doesn't look really good. Well, do you want the public sometimes to watch you trying to fight a fire and then come back an hour and a half later and you're still fighting the same fire? Does that look really good? You know, it's a give and a take, right? It's just understanding what risk we're going to take for what reason, right? It's a risk-based response. Contact the EPA or state equivalent, whether it be environment or whoever it is. Contact the hazmat teams for guidance. Just give them awareness. Sometimes they may need to come out. Sometimes they may not need to come out. They aren't going to be doing overpacking. We're going to talk about plans right now with our towing agencies as well. Wash your gear. Log your exposures. For all of our events, this is some serious smoke. I would recommend, if you get this smoke on your bunker gear now, you are looking at sending this gear off to advanced cleaning. I don't think just one wash in an extractor is going to be enough. I would trust it taking it to an advanced cleaning. If you don't have that option, wash it in the extractor at least twice. Hey, did you know that EV fires may not always be the battery? New cars, within the last 3 to 5 years, the battery compartment has been built so strong and so good that now, yeah, it's an EV that's on fire, but the E is not on fire. The car itself, the combustibles, the seats, the interior, the plastics, the wiring, the battery isn't on fire. So how do we identify that? Well, this Tesla that you see in the picture right here, that looks like possibly a boyfriend that cheated on his girlfriend or something like that. I don't know. Looks like a gasoline or an accelerant, a flammable ignitable liquid or ignitable liquid bore. The battery is definitely not involved on that fire. And we see this happening more and more often in the past few years because the battery compartment is being built robust enough that it's able to protect the battery from the effects of the car fire. But you try to identify, is it an EV? Is it a hybrid? Take a look at the EV rescue app right there. There's the QR code. This app used to be free. Now it's Adam, if you did you had Scott on yesterday. I can't remember how much he put in for the monthly price. I think it was $1.99. If you wanted to type that in there, that would really help. This is the go-to app that I have on my phone and my tablet and all of our frontline iPads for any car, any large truck, any van, even charging stations. This is an amazing resource that will give you the emergency response guide at the tips of your fingers. You need to identify where the battery is and where the safety components of that vehicle are. Yes, wear your full PPE. Life safety, once again, is critical. Treat it just like any other type of car fire. Extinguish the fire. Use water. Heck, you can use a little bit of foam right now, but remember the purpose of foam. When we talk, I consider it hazmat foam. Of course, we have two different types of foam, Class A foam and Class B foam. Class A foams are water wetter. Class B foam is my vapor suppressant. Do I have any vapors coming from a flammable liquid? Nope, I do not. All I have is Class A combustibles in here. Yes, I have the Class C fire as well with the electrical issue. Foam isn't going to really help. I'm going to use water. Just use normal, clean, pure, good, happy water. I don't need an encapsulating agent. I don't need a foam. I need water. Watch for possible thermal wave. Get your thermal imaging camera out, get your temperature gun out, take a look at that battery pack. This is where knowing that where the batteries are. That's where you take a look at the temperature if it's increasing in that battery pack. Be aware of possible venting. The battery packs do have vents. They're typically right behind the front window wheels or right in front of the back wheels, right? So watch out for those venting gases. Once again, wear your mask. Contact your state equivalent or the EPA or your hazmat team for this. And once again, we're going to have to build out a plan with our tow agency. Almost getting there. We got a few more slides. Wash your gear, log your exposures. Even if the battery wasn't involved, the toxic products from these cars, I think Captain Chris Green talked about it. They ended up doing research on this. There's over 39 skin or dermal hazards from any type of car fire. So we got to be very, very cautious of this. EV fire response if the battery's involved. That picture right down there with that BMW, that battery is obviously involved. Look at that bright white fire. That is a hot fire that is probably over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a torching fire from thermal runaway from an event. The ordinary combustibles are also involved as well. When we sit there and take a look at this, we have the National Highway Transportation Safety Authority. They just came out with their new webpage. It has the emergency response guides, just like the EV rescue app. This one is free, but it's a web page. There are currently, as my last check, 445 emergency response guides within here. By the end of the year, it's going to be federal law that every auto manufacturer gives them their emergency response guide. So this library will probably populate faster than every other one. So this is another good resource. I would say that this is going to be the second resource you want to go to. Wear your full PPE. Life safety is critical. Same thing. Treat it like a normal car fire every single time. Protect exposures. Consider allowing the product to burn. Once again, no foam. I see foam. I saw a very large fire department on the East Coast just a few weeks ago in one of our battery chat boards, and they were fighting the EV fire. And these firefighters are standing around in a sea of foam. I'm not blaming the firefighters once again, but the whole thought process comes down to, well, if the fire's not going out well, we're going to put foam on it because foam's magical and foam always helps. All you did is you threw money away. That's it. Don't use foam. Just use water. Foam is more electroconductive than normal water, so it's going to make more of an arc flash hazard. I got a bug in my throat. I apologize, guys. At least I don't have a lavalier mic right now. I'll address that issue here in a second. Don't you worry, Dan. Don't use foam. Use the water to cool and try to take care of this. Sometimes consider allowing it to burn. Talk to the EPA or state equivalent. Get a hold of your hazmat team. You might even need to get a hold of your tech rescue team or your auto extrication and specialist as well, because they may know more about the vehicle construction as well. Wash your gear. Log your exposures. Here we go. This is Dan's slide just for you. The ESA has a lot of reference and information resources as well. They're probably one of the oldest groups when it comes on down to EV fire response and extrication response. Dalen Zartman is the master on that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Dalen here in a little bit. That QR code goes to their webpage. They have a 24-hour call number that can give you guidance if you have an EV issue. So we sit there and take a look here. The question that I had, I want to scroll just a little bit up and make sure I hit Dan. So the thoughts on EV fires and underground parking garages with fully occupied high rises over them. Dan, I have a Google map on my phone right now. Right now I have Nashville highlighted because there was an EV fire in a podium construction. Podium construction is 5/1 or 4/2. There's a whole wide range of them. The fire code has pretty much set this up that the bottom single story or second 2 stories is type 1 construction, heavy concrete construction. The next 4 or 5 stories on top of that is type 5 construction. It's a freaking house. That's the most common type of mid-rise structure that's going across the United States. Can't speak for Canada, but at least that's what the fire code here in the United States has allowed. I've got 3 of them coming up about a mile away from where I'm pointing right now. I've got 3 of them that I'm doing code analysis on. So I am very, very worried about EV fires in those garages, in any of these garages. I feel that this is a huge hazard, and this is going to turn into a Surfside condo collapse incident. For those that don't know about Surfside condo collapse, take a look at it on YouTube. FEMA responded to that a few years ago. I think it was over 100 fatalities. It collapsed in the middle of the night with hundreds of people inside a condominium. And what the issue was is water infiltration from the swimming pool down into the parking garage, which degraded the rebar and the superstructure of the building to where it just fell apart. I'm worried about the spalling of the concrete and these issues. This is why we have to wear our full PPE and we have to get everybody out. Life safety is critical. When I say that, I don't mean somebody out of the car. That is absolutely critical. It's people out of that floor where this car fire is. And then it's everybody above. You need to evacuate the building and get people out now. We 100% absolutely need to get people outside of the structure. Even if it's a 5/1, even though if there's 2 or 3 or 400 people, we're gonna have to start working on emergency management now. Protect exposures. Get the fire crews down there, get some hose lines. Yeah, the NFPA 13 sprinkler system, hopefully, if it's in there, is going to help you out on the overhead. It's going to start spraying some water and it's going to start hooking us up. But we need to start spraying water on the ground. We have to keep that concrete from spalling, and we have to make sure we do not destroy the superstructure and the structural integrity of this concrete. We need continuous flowing water on all of the surfaces. Attack the car fire, but you need to be focusing a lot on the exposures. That's my personal thought process right now, is we need to cool the cars next to it. We need to cool the floor. We need to cool the overhead in every column. This is where the conversation of EV blankets might start coming in. And my good friend Tim Ferretti with Ferretti Salvage, he talks about EV blankets that they shouldn't even be on the car. They should be on the exposures. Put them on the car next to the car fire. Protect the cars next to it. NFPA has already done estimates. If you have a car fire in a parking garage, within 10 minutes, the car next to your car that's on fire will catch on fire. How long is it going to catch for the next car after that to catch on fire? 30 seconds. And then you have a conflagration. You keep the car fire down to a single car fire. You do not want it to continue to go on. You have to watch out for that. Oren, good question. Contamination of the surrounding cars in the building. If we're looking at water runoff, I don't care. Right now, the solution of pollution is dilution. I don't care about the pollution issue. I care about a building falling on my head issue. Getting the car out is a huge issue. This is where we get a hold of tech rescue. We get a hold of our hazmat. We get a hold of our EPA. We get a hold. This is going to be a big event. We need to get in there and get in there quickly. And we need to hook up and get these fire streams in now. We need to have incident command and emergency management start working on evacuating the building at the same time that we're applying water to protect those exposures. We need to have rescue technicians and specialists and tow truck operators coming on out so they can work on getting the car out. You can have companies have this really cool tank looking apparatus, but most of us are going to have a come along or a turfer or maybe a pickup truck with a winch, because a fire engine isn't going to very easily make it into the 6th story of a multi-story parking garage. I understand that. This is where pre-planning comes on in with your rescue techs. What if we have a battery fire down here? How are you going to get it out? Well, let's steal the tow truck. Well, this is gonna the big issue right there. We got to take a look at that. When we get done with this, it's gonna be a long day. It's gonna be a painful day. It's gonna be an irritating day. Wash your gear, log your exposures. So now, what if somebody's trapped in the car? This is where that life safety is critical thing. We're going back into the micro. We just went into the macro for a second. Don't worry, we're gonna go back out there. But I'm trying to keep this as the micro tonight. As we're flying on through here, we're just over an hour. Getting people out of a car. This is the lower left slide right here. This is in Vancouver, Canada. We had an occupant, his car ended up catching on fire. Well, it turned off at first, and then he ended up getting fire underneath the dash. Luckily, he was able to boot the window out. But the big thing comes down to, you look at the bottom right, that's my hot rod, or at least a picture of it right there. My front glass windows are laminated. Window punch ain't gonna work. What's the problem with that? Well, you need to recognize that, yeah, these laminated windows are used in 1 of 3 cars after 2017. We don't have normal door openers anymore. I have a push button car door in my electric vehicle. When the fire incident occurs, everything shuts off. By law, they have to have an emergency release in one of the front doors. So you need to know where that is, or you need to know that the back windows are tempered, so you can still use a window punch to extricate the occupant. So making a plan of either we're going to attack the back, and we're going to yank the person out the back windows, or we're going to use a glass cutting saw. That middle picture, I can see the electronic door opener and I can see the emergency release. Take a look at it for half a second. Can you see each of them? I know for people that own Teslas in here, you probably know. If you own a Tesla, show your friends. If you have anybody that owns an electric vehicle in your fire department, go take a look at their vehicle. If you have a dealership, go and take a look. And I don't think the video is going to play. I got too much capacity going on, so we're not going to worry about it. But the top button, let's see here. Ooh, right there, that is the button. That's the door button. And right there, that is the latch right there. But they look different on all the cars. EV extrication and response. Once again, there's a lot of classes out there. Just an hour ago, the ESA with fire engineering, they did training minutes on this, and last month they had some extrication response on this. And there's a lot of other great classes nationally on this, so I'm not going to get super in depth. I'm just going to talk about some of the tools of the trade. Where your PPE. Maybe you might want to consider SCBA use, or you should have a backup team with SCBA on if you need to get out of the way rather quickly. Life safety is critical. Get the occupant out of the car. Right now, that's our #1 game. Conductor extrication is normal. Using the cut loop, it's kind of like a negative terminal of every other vehicle, but understand, once you turn that off, you've disconnected all the electronics, like the electronic doors, the electric windows, the power seats, the power steering wheel, and most importantly, on some of our vehicles, the battery management system. Not all of them. Newer vehicles, you see that Tesla plug right there on the far right. That's one tiny little cable that's going to turn off the electronics of the car and the airbag and all the safety features that are going to be an issue for us. It keeps the battery management system running. This cut loop right here has a ton of wires inside it. This EV cut loop, this would disable the battery management system. So I'm not going to say the emergency response guide isn't going to tell you. So I don't cut this immediately. I will cut it at times, but I'm not going to be, this isn't going to be the first thing I'm going to go for right now. The electrocution hazard that we have on extrication is minimal. Watch out for the orange lines. That's anything over 60 volts. Don't cut through it. Don't lick it. Don't touch it. understand that where the EV plug is, wherever they charge, whether it be the front of the car, the back of the car, the left of the car, the right of the car, there's going to be wires along the body that go on down to it. Most of the time, the wires are on the driver's side. How do you learn about this? How do you know about it? The EV rescue app. You need to know where it is. Wherever you get the emergency response guide, that's going to show you where it is. At the fire ignites, back out anybody that doesn't have an SCBA on, attack in full PPE. Contact your EPA, state equivalent, hazmat team, wash your gear, log your exposures. You can use the tiny little banana plug like you see that guy right down there. What that's doing is telling the car that I'm charging right now, and it's going to put the car in park. Some vehicles, it takes up to a minute for it to go into park. And some vehicles are auto stop and auto start. You'll see that GIF right down there. That's back in FDMY a few years ago. That's from an auto stop and auto start vehicle. That banana plug wouldn't have saved the issue here. So the big thing always comes back down to stabilize the incident as if on any normal extrication. Get the vehicle in the park, get the keys out of the vehicle, do your basic, and then if you have an EV plug, use it. If it's a truck or a bus, you need your emergency response guide. Here's a good resource for any alternative fuel vehicle from AFV HazCon. They have a wide array of stuff. You have to make an account, but it's a great web page. And I've gathered a ton of emergency response guides for school buses, for semi trucks, and large vehicles for this. Wear your full PPE and ensure proper distance. This thing is going to be big and it's going to be hot. Hot as in heat release rate, not in temperature. It's going to create a significant plume, so we have to start working at life safety for the entire area. We have to make sure if it's a school bus barn to get all the mechanics out and other issues of this. We have to watch out for the public blocks to miles away. We have to watch out for these issues. You're going to protect and remove exposures because this can easily collapse a building. And most of our bus fires are happening at maintenance facilities. Consider allowing the product to burn, but now we have to start thinking about where that smoke's going. So contact emergency management, contact your local members that have plume modeling like hazmat teams or LEPCs or your 10th civils or your civil support teams. There's a lot of them. What's the app for EV rescue? Again, there's a billion of them. This is one of them, the EV rescue app. I think Adam might be able to type it in. If you have a chance to help me out on that, Adam, there's 2 links for that app, but there's a ton of web pages and resources for this. And I will hit the deluge sprinkler question here in a second as well. Contact the EPA or your state equivalent. Contact your hazmat teams, and as always, wash your gear, log your exposures. I saw a comment in there earlier about SEPTA, which is the Philly bus company. I may be saying it wrong. I apologize. They just ended up having an EV bus fire that turned into a conflagration that I think burnt like 26 buses. And that pretty much came on down to they didn't have area separation between those buses. So once the EV bus took off, the rest of the buses took off, the firefighters couldn't get in the area. We need access. So we have to be aware that pre-planning is critical right now. With the municipal transit authority I'm working with right now, we are building up a transit flow path to make sure that we can get in, and we're doing what we call platooning vehicles. So we're keeping their EVs only in batches of 15. So if a fire happens, hopefully it only catches on 1 fire or 3 or 5, but it can only catch on fire for a maximum of 15. This isn't in the fire code. This is just something that we worked on out. But having 50 or 60 or 100 buses all packed up next to each other, you're asking for a problem. And it could be a bus, it could be a semi truck, it could be cars. If we put them all next to each other, it's going to turn into a welcome back. I just got kicked out, didn't I? Let me see if I can reshare the screen. We're almost done. We're almost done. I'm just sitting there blathering on for a few seconds. That was fun. Adam, you would have been able to take over for me anyways. It's all right. Energy storage systems. This is where I could have a conversation about the deluge system that was asked right there. Wear your full PPE, evens outside, protect the exposures, watch out for an explosion hazard. I talked about hydrogen.
Hey,
almost
Chris, there
50%
you go.
of the
Your slides
gas.
are back up. Never mind.
My slide, are we good to go? Over 50% of the gases coming from lithium-ion battery fires is hydrogen, and that's flammable and explosive. And this was a big, unfortunate, horrible reminder back in 2019 down in Surprise, Arizona. You can see there on that slide. I'm not going to tell the whole story first because we don't have all night, and I wouldn't do it justice. Captain Hunter Clare, you can see him unfortunately in that photo. He is that burning mess 70 feet away. That door, he was at the front of that door, that energy storage system, and he was measuring it with a thermal imaging camera, working with his crew, and they were having white gas come out. There's a lesson on this from FSRI, and there's a lot of videos of him explaining the story in person. The amount of force was not a deflagration, it was a detonation. It was I don't know how it wasn't a fatal event. I think he's pretty much Superman, but his injuries were enough for him not to be back, never go back to the line. We have to watch out for the explosion hazard. And this is where that discussion of, well, what about sprinkler systems? What about deluge systems? What about clean agent systems? We're having a lot of discussions in the fire code world with this, but the whole thing comes down to, I can look at my state right now. I'm in Washington State right now, and we're modern and progressive. We're on the 2021 International Fire Code. Last time I checked, it's not 2021, it's 2025. More importantly, the 2021 International Fire Code was written by a lot of experts back in about 2016 and 2017. So we are going, my code that I have to comply with and I have to enforce is 9 to 10 years old. And all of us are in that camp, right? We're all looking at 10-year-old data. So going to that deluge question, it's going to take studies and research from FM Global, from FSRI, to see if the NFPA wants to adopt that. And it may or may not be effective, but we can't require building manufacturers or installers to put something in just because we think it works. It has to be tested, and it has to be standardized, and it has to be confirmed that it will help, and that takes time. So in the meantime, it comes on down to us having to do our structural response in an appropriate fashion. Consider allowing it to burn. This is going to be it's going to be a nasty fire. Work with the LEPCs, work with emergency management. Oh, that was my video playing. I apologize. I don't want to play the video. Let's see if I can close that out. There we go. I thought I had that set up. Contact the EPA, wash your gear, log your exposures. Just going through those Q&A really quick. There we go. Oh, don't worry, Steve. That's coming up. It's almost here. We saw this slide a few seconds ago. All of these tools are defensive. This is what you guys came here for. We're only an hour and an hour and 15 minutes in. We are on the bottom slide, but this is the important part here. Our undercar spraying tools. They're between $150 and $9,000. My tool, it was literally just a decon manifold that's for my hazmat team and 6 $30 sprinkler heads from the hardware store. It cost me $150. It didn't even cost me that. On the social media world, there's a social media group on Facebook. It's the lithium-ion battery SME. If you want to sign up to it, we have about 10,000 people there. If you're a first responder and you're curious about it, come and check it out. It's awesome stuff. If anybody that's in that group wants to put that post in there, feel free. You got a moderator right here. If you answer the questions properly, I might let you in. It's not something top secret. We just want to make sure that's respectful on this. But these under vehicle spraying tools, there's a firefighter, I think on the East Coast, that was just made it in the news because he made this amazing undercar spraying tool. Good for him. He took a pipe and it looks like he cut it with like a circ saw and just cut some stripes into it. And it's meant to slide under a car. I have a professional device. I have another professional device that I've seen a few conferences here. We have another one. I just found this online. Here's another one that another Canadian instructor talks about. This is a task force tips one right there, the Bresnan nozzle. We have another good one right here. And this is one from a New Jersey firefighter that put it together. There are a lot of good tools. You can see some flow a lot of water, some flow a little bit of water. But what's the benefit? Exactly, Robert? You hit it perfect. Why don't we use water curtains anymore? Yeah, why not? Well, because they're not. It's not that they're not useful. It's just, do I need another piece of equipment on a rig that's a single use tool for an event that doesn't happen very often? Let's take a look at our construction right now. I like it. I think it's all right. And I wouldn't put this on every fire engine. This is a battery compartment. I think of a Tesla. Don't even quote me on it. It's just an old battery compartment. Look at the construction. It's a tray, and there's batteries that are in it. And then we have wires. There's a cooling system that has coolant inside there as well. If you spray water on the bottom of it, the heat will transfer. It will take some time. It will help. You look at some other ones in some other battery compartments and larger battery compartments. I've got these look like prismatic cells sitting on top of a cooling system, and then there's a plate underneath. If I spray water underneath this battery compartment, the cooling effects of the water underneath the battery compartment will never be seen with the batteries. The batteries will never be affected by the heat. Put it this way, if I'm going to fight a structure fire, we go to the fire curtain. I love the fire curtain idea. If I'm spraying water on the outside of a structure fire, am I doing anything? No. If I'm spraying from the outside to the inside, am I making positive change? Yes, depending on what my pattern is and where I'm flowing. This is not a fire dynamics class. I'm not going to get into that. If I'm just spraying fire, or if I'm just spraying water on the roof of a house, I'm not affecting much change at all. I have to get the water in the house. That's the problem here. So this works well it was a quick and easy tool. For the cheap ones, if just like John talked about right there, use the hose with some hose drills drilled into it, amazing. Don't go and spend $10,000. Put a cap on a hose and drill some holes. I'm in. But don't, exactly. If you already have a piercing nozzle, use it. You don't need to buy a brand new tool. I'm sorry, these guys, and I love some of the manufacturers of this. They're good guys, and they came up with some great ideas. But we don't need to I don't want to put this equipment on my frontline rigs. So we talked about getting the water in it. What about my under vehicle penetrating tool? Well, we see under vehicle penetrating tools are between $35,000 and $50,000. The company that invented this, my hat is absolutely off to them. They put a lot of R&D, a lot of research, a lot of work and development into this. This takes up an entire compartment. I'm spending $35,000 to $50,000 on a car that will be totaled. I'm using an SCBA with compressed air, and it is penetrating into the battery compartment. With some older technology, great stuff, awesome stuff. But let's take a look. Once again, here's an older battery compartment from a Tesla. Notice you have all the cells in there. We have 8,000 or 7,500 cells inside that battery compartment, and we have a bunch of modules in there. They are all combined. If I use this little stabby tool in there and I start flowing 8 gallons per minute, very quickly I am going to fill this entire battery compartment up. And if I get water on the battery cell, I cannot stop the thermal runaway. But can I stop the other batteries from going into thermal runaway? Propagation. Can I stop that continuing propagation? Yes, I can. Well, let's take a look at the new Cybertruck and how batteries are manufactured now. I have this big, thick blue foam. I have multiple cells in different compartments. I have a thick, strong box. When I penetrate this thing into the compartment, if I put it into the wrong compartment that's not going into the thermal runaway, I just penetrated a stabby tool into a battery that was intact. I just made a fire worser. So this was a great tool for a few years in a thought process. I wouldn't have spent $35,000 to $50,000 on it. But the good thing here is on that last slide and on this slide, there are people out there that are thinking about this, and we're trying to figure out solutions. Do we all need to jump on the bandwagon and buy this stuff? No, I'm not going to say that. If you have it, go for it, but be really cautious with this. I wouldn't put this on one of my fire engines. That's what I'm gonna tell you right now. Above vehicle penetrating tools. This one's a fun one. I had a phone call today. I think they're going to be in a local county from me. in the next month. I think they said August 14th. They're going to be coming up and showcasing their tools. These guys are going on the CERT for their alternative fuels class. It's called Affirm. And this is an amazing topic in technique and style. I love this. So you can see there on the bottom left, that looks kind of European to me. You look there on the bottom right, that looks really European to me. And I'm not sure about you, but I've always thought that Tempe was rather Europe. Okay, no, Tempe, Arizona, they picked up, I think, 6 of these. It's an awesome tool. It can cut up to a 1/4 inch of steel, and I'm betting it can cut even more than that. Like I said, 3,000 PSI, low pressure or low volume. It makes really, really small droplets. It's European firefighting at its top and its peak. You have to change your thought process, your mindset, your tactics of your fire department. Are you going to go American firefighting versus European firefighting are 2 different types of tactics, styles, and skills. It's not that one's better or one's worse, one's right and one's wrong. But I'll tell you right now, this helmet looks 1,000 times better than some Star Wars helmet. I'm kidding. Okay, I'm not kidding on that one. But the tactics, you're not going to buy a $50,000 to $75,000 tool to put out a car fire on a car that's total. You're going to do it to change your tactics and your style. You see down there at the bottom right, this guy, he's doing structural firefighting. It's a great tool for structural firefighting if you change your tactics. There's a lot of different thought process that comes to it. So if they come to town, check them out and talk to them and take a look at it. But it's not just an EV fire tool.
Hey, Chris, for those that are listening, that's the Cobra tool created in Sweden and England. If you go back to previous webinars, we did webinars with the people that manufactured the tool and on European tactics. And they did a lot of demonstrations during that webinar on how you can use it for structural firefighting as well. And Tempe was one of the first departments in the country to purchase one of the Cobra tools. But if people go back to our previous webinars, we did 2, if not 3 webinars on this Cobra tool.
Hey, Ed.
And I remember that.
Hey,
Go
I was just about to post the YouTube link in the chat for the most recent Cold Cut Cobra webinar we did last year. So yeah, I was actually just getting it right now.
Had great talks with them. So I'm making the European jokes, and it's all in jest. And I watched the videos. I was going to add that. I apologize, gentlemen, and I forgot when I was putting this together and getting it cleaned up just this morning. I was going to mention that because they were here on the Provident presentation, and I see Kent Laurie was talking about how they were at the Affirm class. So they're making a huge statement here in the United States, and there's a lot of stuff. And there might be a thought process of changing our tactics and our style. There could be, but you have to know what you're looking at. That's the big thing. So go and check out those videos when Sam puts those links in. Here it is. Exposure protection tools, fire blankets. Here's the link right now. This fire engineering training minutes happened they dropped it about 3 hours, 4 hours ago. This has Dalen Zartman from the ESA and Jason DeFoss talks about deploying that EV blanket. But we have an urgent advisory. The Fire Protection Research Foundation, the research affiliate of the National Fire Protection Association and FSRI, part of UL Research Institutes. That's a lot of 4-letter names. They have issued a notice about the potential explosion risk when fire blankets are used during EV fire suppression efforts with battery involved. The IAFF subsequently sent a letter to all of its members saying, do not use them. Jury's out. I'm not going to go against the IAFF, the NFA, the NFPA, FSRI, UL, AST. There's a lot of 4-letter, 3-letter, and 2-letter names. They don't like these. The reason they don't like them, I'm going to tell you a short story. I'm not going to get all the ways into the weeds. We ended up having a deflagration event, a woof. When I say we, I wasn't physically there, but I've seen the videos. They ended up having a deflagration event at one of the training incidents when they were doing research and studies. And it was pretty dramatic. If a firefighter would have been within 3 to 5 feet, they would have burnt their gear and they could have been injured. And then 2 days later, at another another training incident and another location, they ended up having a detonation event where, from the words of some of the people there, that it could have caused injuries, if not fatalities, for people that would have been close in. People with full bunker gear and SCBA? Yes, possibly. It was a strong incident. So the biggest thing comes on down to is, don't just willy-nilly, when your vendor comes on up and says, buy this blanket, it's going to put the fire out. It will not. It's not going to put the fire out. Your job and your goal is not to put the fire out. I know that we want to put the fire out. Our job is life safety and exposure protection. This blanket here protects exposures. I would say focus very heavily on the left one right there. That is a very high quality blanket. That's the $4,000 blanket. If I'm buying an exposure protection tool, I'm going to buy the more expensive one. So we have to be very, very cautious. Jeff, we sit there and see, I'm taking a look here. They weren't tucking the blanket in, worked well when there was an explosion. Yes, the video, this fire engineering training minutes, talks about tucking the blanket. Some people talk about not tucking the blankets. This environment and venue is not going to be on the tactics on how EV blankets are deployed. We're already over an hour and a half in. I don't want to go into the tactics, but there are advanced classes. Adam has some good training on this. The ESA has some good training on this. There's a lot of people that have great training on the tactics of wetting the blankets, not wetting the blankets, tucking the blankets, not tucking the blankets. What blanket do you want to buy? When should you use a blanket? Just because you have something doesn't mean you need to use it all the time. The only time that I would recommend using a blanket is for that exposure protection inside structures. If it's out on the freeway or a parking lot, let it burn. Potentially, just like I told you earlier, maybe we might want to put the blanket on the other vehicles and let the gases be released from the car. It comes down to tactical decision making with a lot of training. This is a very advanced process. I'm not going to go against those 4-letter organizations and what their recommendations are of not doing this. But I'm not going to say that they're 100% true. There's a lot of politics going in between a lot of manufacturers and these organizations. What I want to tell you right now is, out of all of them, the people that wrote this and the people that wrote the IAFF letter, they care about firefighters' health and safety above all else. That's something that I'm very, very proud of, and I truly appreciate. So it's important to recognize that, but at the same time, there's a lot of tools out there that can be used with proper training, but we're not just going to go to a vendor and just buy this. Don't think that an EV blanket will put out an EV fire. It will not. Other extinguishment tools. Now, these tools are snake oil. We've got it looks like I've got a whole set of extinguishers over here. I got an extinguisher down there. I got another extinguisher. I got all these extinguisher looking things. We have encapsulating agents. There's a lot of name brands out there, and I'm not going to mention any of them. I went so far that I didn't want to mention any brands. I even forgot to actually mention Cold Cut Cobra because they were actually here. But for these ones, I'm not going to mention any of these brands right here. You may or may not know those brands. The big thing I want you to understand is, from your vendors and from these sales reps with encapsulating agents, they're going to say it will put out a fire. It will not. Well, it will. Wait, it could. Wait, what? It's the chemistry of what's going on. First off, get rid of that. These are Class D battery or Class D extinguishers. Class D is for metal fires. Lithium-ion batteries are not metal. Okay, they're metal, but they're not flammable metal. Yes, pure lithium is flammable, but lithium ions are not flammable. Lithium hexafluorophosphate, which is a salt, is not flammable. Go always back to the beginning of our conversation here. Sodium chloride. Is sodium flammable? Yes. Is sodium chloride, table salt, flammable in one? No. It just makes our water taste a little bit saltier and yeah, whatever. So the same way for this, a lithium-ion battery cannot be put out with that. Now for the 3 on the bottom, I'm gonna flex right now Lieutenant John Cassidy from FDMY Hazmat 1. We're gonna go to the pizza box inside the oven. We end up having to sleep over with Susie, your kid, and all the other girls. They end up coming on over, staying on over, and because you was a good parent, you're gonna buy hot and ready Little Caesars pizzas. Oh, I don't need to mention brands. Hot and ready pizzas that are $5 from some pizza manufacturing company. You go and get 5 or 10, 15 pizzas, and they end up eating 3 pizzas. Well, there's still 2 pizzas left over. That sounds like breakfast tomorrow. So we're going to put those pizzas in the oven because we don't have space in the fridge. So the pizza boxes go in the oven. Well, everybody forgets about breakfast the next day. The kids go on their merry own way, and the pizzas stay there in the oven. They get forgotten for a day, 2 days, 3 days. Then mom wants to make casserole. Mom doesn't check the oven before mom turns the oven on preheat. And there in about 15 minutes, that oven catches on fire. You get called out for a kitchen fire as the superhero that you are. You roll on down, you bunk up. We end up going priority down to save the whole world, and we roll on in. We pull that 1.75-inch hose line with quick, fast, and we boot that door down, and we do a left-hand wall search, rolling low and slow, and then we see the kitchen fire and that roaring fire inside the oven. And you crack open that 1.75-inch, and you try to put water in the outside of the oven. Will that fire go out? No. The oven is protecting the fire. The fire will eventually go out when you run out of fuel. But if you don't get the water into the oven, the fire will not be extinguished. You go into the oven fire, you go up and you open the oven, and then you end up spraying some water in there, right? You don't just spray water on the outside of the oven for an hour and a half. The same thing's going for these buggers. These encapsulating agents are amazing tools for our battery manufacturers. Hey, I'm at the factory, I'm making this, and I have these exposed, and they're open up. If this catches on fire, I put that stuff on this, it will start cooling the other cells and preventing propagation. These encapsulating agents have very, very good, great cooling capabilities, and they will work for my cells when they're exposed. If I never open the oven, I will never get the encapsulating agent onto the product. There is no point for a firefighter to use an encapsulating agent. Likewise, the salvage industry and the disposal industry, they rip these things apart. So the salvage industry can use these, and they're very effective at having these encapsulating agents. For firefighters, when your vendor tells you that you should replace whatever foam you have with this product because it extinguishes class A, class B nonpolar, class B polar, class B 3D, class B gas, class C, class D. It'll fight every fire. I don't even know why you don't just put it in your water tank, because it's expensive. It's a freaking money grab. Don't let a vendor waste your hard-earned dollars, or more importantly, your taxpayers' hard-earned dollars, and make you less reliable for the products of combustion and the fires that you go on a normal daily basis. Flammable liquid fires, and much more importantly, solid fires. We need Class A firefighting foam on our frontline rigs, number one. Yes, we still need a cache of Class B foam. This will not help. It will help out the beginning and the end of our battery process. We, as the fire response, we are in the middle. We do not need this. Stop letting them try to sell you this stuff. There's a lot of good friends that I have that are selling this stuff, and I like their product. And you can see like this picture down here on the bottom left with my person with no PPE, by the way. Wear your mask and your freaking SCBA. He's extinguishing a fire right now of a tiny little battery that is burnt through. It burnt a hole in the plastic, and now he's able to get the product on the cells. Try to think about that with the pictures of the car batteries that we saw just a few slides ago. All right, that's it for those tactics. We're going to be sending this home here. What do we do at the end if a car fire is happening? Wear your full PPE and make sure people stay within at least 75 feet away, up to 330 feet away, according to the ERG. Ensure thermal stabilization. This is the fire tow handoff that came from the salvage industry, and this is in the IAFF Energy Hazard Guide. We have to make sure the fire is extinguished before we give it to tow. There's no smoke for 30 minutes. The tick or your temp gun is below 100 degrees Fahrenheit, or what is that, 30 degrees Celsius and lowering. The energy status has been assessed and deemed appropriate. Propulsion system is stable and acceptable. We're going to tow it on a steel bed, not an aluminum bed. It's not going to be on a hook. Fire escort is strongly recommended always back to the establishment. Store the vehicle according to SAE J2990 standards, which is going to be 50 feet from any vehicles, or hard sided protection like we see in that item right there. Expect rekindle for up to 3 weeks. Wash your gear and log your exposures. Greg, thank you very much. The thermal imaging camera and the temp gun, they are different things. If you want a good thermal imaging class, go check out our good friends Andy Starnes at Insight Training. I just did watched a class with him yesterday, and he does explain that very, very well. There are differences in a tick and a temperature gun. Disposal. Make sure we get the cells out. Dunk batteries in a bathtub if we need to, if they're still in the structure. Don't put batteries or scooters or tools inside elevators where we're at. Put only non-consumed batteries in overpacks. I still recommend not even using this. It's a judgment call on the owner. Cell block and overpacks, okay. Escort the vehicle to the tow yard. Vehicle has to have separation, and for almost all of them, get a hold of contractors. Here's a real event right now. I'm not trying to hammer this fire department. This is just a slide I had in here. Shows you your occupational levels for the gases that we see in the product's combustion. And this is back in February. We saw a Tesla that was traveling in excess of 100 miles per hour. It plows through this fence. Fire department shows up, single company response. They did extinguish the fire with 750 gallons of water. Here's what she looked like at the end. Is there anything salvageable left? No, but there still are batteries in that battery pack, so it had to be stored 50 feet in all directions. But here's the big thing where you start taking a look. Here's the scene of the accident the day after. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying anything bad on these guys. I'm not saying they did anything bad. But for anybody that has family, you got kids, you got your boys, you got your girls, 7-year-old, 9-year-old. That homeowner there, he has a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. This is what I find out. Now, you start thinking about your 7-year-old and your 9-year-old, if you have them, or nephews or nieces, or if your kids were 7 and 9, and even if you have toddlers or anything else like that. This is in the backyard. This is 3 days afterwards. Would you want your kids playing or possibly touching these? Any of these batteries, any of these cells can ignite at any time. And more importantly, the products of combustion and the firefighting water and the contaminants from it are now in the dirt. This is now a micro Superfund site. Do you want those kids licking that manganese, that nickel, that lead? The homeowner had no clue. They had no idea. They're traumatized. They knew it needed to get cleaned up. So we need to just inform the homeowner. I told him, I gave him my card. I told him, hey, we're going to work with our state EPA or version of the EPA. They need to scrape that ground by 6 inches. Do not take a settlement from the insurance company, and don't let your kids play out there until that gets taken care of. It's critical. These batteries in the shipping industry right now. We have to watch about DDR batteries. I forgot to put the placard in here, the DOT class 10 placard that Patrick and I are working in. You'll see that placard in that QR code with this article that just came out with Patrick and myself. And this kind of stemmed from a lot of other things, but this fire happened in Issaquah, Washington on Interstate 90. It was traveling from Spokane, Washington to Seattle, Washington, and it ended up catching on fire on Snoqualmie Pass. Issaquah shows up. One of the first firefighters there texts me, shows me some pictures, and then this is what he sends me right there. Notice there's something missing? We don't have a placard. These do not have placards. We have to be careful for these placards. Greg, are you willing to throw up Andy's link or anything else like that? Insight Training is a ton of free classes on his YouTube as well. Oh, cool. Check this out. I found it in transit going from Issaquah to Auburn, Washington. For people that aren't from my region, but the majority of you, that's going to be 31 miles or 80 bajillion kilometers. I don't know the conversion. Okay, it's about 50 kilometers through rush hour traffic. I actually got a picture of it while I was on the way. I swear I was the passenger on this drive here. But this is how far it was right there. And then I ended up, because I got fire marshals in the jurisdiction that it went to, I gave him a call and gave him a heads up. What happened the next day? They had to respond to the fire. One fire department gave the other fire department their dirty laundry. This is going to be a continuing issue. And this is where we're working right now on placarding and code development. In this article that both Patrick and I wrote, we're going to be heading down to Houston in a few months, working with the shipping industry, trying to get a placard for all of us to be aware of. So we're still working on disposal and removal. We should not be using the overpack. Get the stuff put in water. If you put it in salt water, that can start discharging it. But get a hold of the EPA. The EPA has a lot of methods. They've learned a lot from the Palisades fire. They've learned a lot from the Lahaina fires. They're learning. They have a lot of tools and techniques to be able to help us out with. But back to us right now on contamination. With Teaks, we ended up doing research and testing on this. They tested 8 heavy metals and 20 semi-volatile organic compounds on bunker gear swatches, fabrics from engine caps, and SCBA straps. This came primarily from one of my local fire departments here. Great support for them, and I thank them very much for giving me the story and the information. They fought a Chevy Volt fire back in 2019. When they got there, the fire was rocking, massive thermal column, huge header, and they start knocking down the fire. The smoke starts banking into the cab of the fire engine because it's the middle of the summer, the windows were open. That toxic smoke got into the cab of the engine and started making firefighters sick. They had to take the fire engine out of service after all 3 shifts came down with illnesses, and they had to have professional cleaning done, and all the filters had to be replaced in the fire engines. So down at Teaks, they spent lots of money, and they've done a lot of great support to help us out. And they found out that water-based cleaning provided between 21 and 92% of cleaning efficiency. You throw your bunker gear in after a lithium-ion battery fire, it gets almost 90%, up to 90% of these metal nanoparticles out of your bunker gear. Good stuff. CO2-based cleaning, much more effective, 99%. So if you know that you have heavy contamination of smoke from lithium-ion batteries, I would go with advanced cleaning with CO2. If you just have normal fire smoke, water-based cleaning is good on this. We just need to take a look at this on the cleaning, and SCBAs had the greatest amount of contamination. So this is why we're getting into that cleaning of those SCBAs. Here's a QR code for that research study, but here's some more important information between EPA Region 6 and Teaks. They found a lot of this that we were seeing orders of magnitude above our 15-minute safety threshold, and PM particulate amounts of 12,000 to 17,000 times our occupational levels. Holy crap. Where your SCBA. Final reporting at the end, make sure you put that you had a lithium-ion battery report. Cool. I finally get to stop talking about this NFIRS report. For the region that I'm in, we're still on NFIRS. Some of you guys are probably already starting to shift over to NERIS. File that report appropriately. Log your exposure, clean your gear and shower, and make sure, please make sure, Chief Man, I know you had somebody on here. I've watched those videos. Have somebody sign up for the make sure you guys sign up for the NIOSH cancer survey. Sign up for the NFR. It's back in action. It was gone for about a month and a half. They have almost 25,000 firefighters. This helps us all. I just read a story this week about information from PFAS and other contaminants and cancer research that directly came from the National Firefighter Registry. In my state, I have the PIERS, which is my exposure reporting. It's an app. I have it on my phone. It takes me 5 minutes. A free app, which is NFORS. Both of these link up to my National Firefighter Registry account. Florida has an app and a program. There's a ton others. You need to make sure you log your exposures. Without a doubt, log your exposures, log your exposures, log your exposures. Sending it home right now. We sit there and take a look. This QR code goes to FSRI.org. At the end of all my presentations, for people that don't know, they're always in this whole thought process of like, what do I do and how do I do this? Well, use that link. This is going to help. This is going to help your family and your community, without a doubt. Here's some stuff from the NFPA. And here's 3 QR codes. I'm going to leave it on there. The next one's my final slide, but I'm just going to leave it on this. This one has a full-on 4-hour battery awareness class, a QR code for my webpage, and a QR code for another battery response effort. Like I said, the next slide, don't worry, this is coming back, is literally my contact. And thanks to all of these individuals here, there's many, many others literally behind me, in front of me, all around. It's a massive community, guys. Get out and talk to people and be thirsty for the education. Listen to other people. And with that, I'm going to take a short breath and let the illustrious chief talk.
Ed, we can't hear you. You're not muted though, so I don't know.
He is on mute, I think.
No,
And I'll see if I can get a link to Andy's classes.
doesn't show he's on mute on my end.
He doesn't look like he's on mute. I think his microphone might be turned off.
Hello?
Oh, I get that. I think I hit the questions. I'll let Chief work it out. Oh,
How
I
about
didn't talk
now?
about air
There you
monitoring.
go.
All right. So I had to go put a leather helmet on, Chris, since you were picking on helmets. I grabbed one off the shelf. So, Chris, if you don't mind, are you going to provide us your PowerPoint that we can put it into a PDF that no one
You
can
can,
copy?
I can get the PDF as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send the PDF out with the link tomorrow. So if anybody missed any of the QR codes or the websites, they'll have them. That'd be great. So I want to back up here just a minute. So, and this was way back when we were talking about fires in garages and contamination of surrounding buildings and other cars, et cetera, et cetera. And Adam made a point. We need to quantify the contamination, though, with the use of pH papers, HF papers, and air monitoring as well, including PID photoionization detectors for volatile organic compounds release as well if your department has one. The bottom line is I'm going to bet most of the listeners on here tonight don't have PID photoionization detectors. So you need to be talking to your local hazmat people now. Okay. So you know ahead of time where you can get this instrumentation that you're going to need. And, even using the pH papers and stuff, you still need to be trained on that kind of stuff. So, all right, I want to go here to the Q&A and make sure we didn't miss anything. So Michael Hyde wanted to know, what air monitoring would you recommend that would detect the gases you're talking about so we can clear the room area is safe to enter without being on air?
You just said it right there, Chief. Adam hit it up with all those fancy whiz bang things. No, we don't need all those. I do for our hazmat teams, they do need a photo ionization detector, F paper, and all that other stuff. I've worked with a lot of air monitor companies, MSA, Blackline, Ray Systems. There's a lot of air monitoring companies. For firefighters, for our fire departments, the big thing comes on down. This has been a big thing in the fire investigation world and overhaul world. You're not going to be able to, a four gas monitor is not going to be able to quantify it. But firefighters, we're not going to buy all this stuff. Get at least a four gas monitor. But during the entire overhaul event, you should be on some sort of respiratory protection. I recommend SCBA. Even when I do fire investigations and it's a few hours afterwards, I am wearing my air purifying respirator for the entire duration of that fire. It isn't until 24 hours post fire because I don't even have all the monitoring tools, even as a hazmat geek. So we need to recognize if you cannot quantify the environment because we don't have the monitors, we don't have the money for it, you need to assume as if it's a hazardous environment.
So 2 months ago, we did a webinar with a fire investigator, and the title of it was "The Fire's Out, What's the Big Deal?" And he jumped all over that, especially with after the fire with cleanup and investigators.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go back and look at that, that's another one of the webinars that we have recorded. You talked about the deluge sprinkler systems for parking garages. We'll have that link. Steve Provost wanted to know if you could share the link with the water thing you made for the car fires. That information will be in the PDF that goes out tomorrow. So I think we covered those, and we go down through the chat and make sure we didn't miss anything.
There's a question from Robert Ketty. Do you see that at 8:53?
I'm looking at that one, 553. So if batteries are identified, isolated, and removed from the structure, should it be the local fire department that contacts the EPA? Yes. And demands that they respond? No, we don't get a demand. Will they only respond depending on the amount involved? Yes, because chances are we tell or instruct the homeowner to contact a appropriate party for disposal, it may end up back in the trash. This is where it comes to the value judgment in the statement. One of the first lithium-ion battery events I ever went on was a 19-year-old kid with a $3,000 scooter, and we're at a park. And we tell the kid, we contacted my state version of EPA and they said, tell the kid to wait for 6 hours and that contract cleaner is going to come there. I'm like, well, how much are they going to charge him? Well, it's going to be at least $600 for the call out. So probably like $1,500. This kid just lost an uninsured $3,000 scooter and he's half an hour from home and the park's closing in an hour. Kid's not hanging out. Second we leave, I know that stuff's going in the trash. Yes, we had to take the batteries that time. That's where it comes on down to. So if it's a homeowner, it's a value judgment to the fire officer and the fire company. If you think those batteries are going to go into the trash, we need to work with Hazmat or somebody to get these batteries put away.
So-
And that's been our challenge.
Yeah. So one of the suggestions I would make is that here in Pennsylvania, for example, it's the Department of Environmental Protection, or DEP. Find out who your state lead agency is and have a conversation with them ahead of time. Don't wait till you have the incident and then decide, well, gee, who do I have to call at 3 o'clock in the morning? Find out ahead of time. It might be something as simple as your 911 center calls the state emergency operations center, who in turn notifies someone with the state agency that has the responsibility. But work on it ahead of time. Don't wait till you get smacked with it at 3 o'clock in the morning and then decide what you're going to do. I'll get down through here and make sure we didn't miss anything. No PID at my department yet. Soon. It looks like we had a couple of cousins, one from the South and one from Missouri, that hooked up with one another tonight.
I was cracking up watching that one.
Let's see. Comment here. I was told to monitor for hydrogen because that's your highest gas. Some of the nasty stuff are trace. If you detect hydrogen, you can assume possible exposure. Would you agree?
It would, but the big difficulty comes on down to what monitors hydrogen, what devices pick up hydrogen. Hydrogen is probably one of the most difficult gases for us to pick up as a hazmat technician. Most LEL sensors don't pick it up very easily and readily. Pure hydrogen sensors are difficult to come by. Now you can pick it up with carbon monoxide sensors. And that's if you want to learn more about that, go back to the air monitoring class that I did with you guys. I think it was 2 years ago. We talked about interference gases and other items like that. So yes, looking for that is a big one. One of the big things we've been finding, when I say we, the entire community, is they're not seeing hydrogen fluoride nearly as much. And that's because, for the most part, not always, firefighting isn't a science, it's an artwork. The hydrogen fluoride gets released and it reacts so quickly with other smoke particulates and water vapor from the fire that once you get 5 feet away from a structure fire or the plume, the hydrogen fluoride is binded to something else, so you don't see free hydrogen fluoride. But hydrogen itself is still absolutely there. So there's a few response tools that we're looking at in the fire prevention world to monitor for hydrogen to do early identification. So good comment there, Mark.
Okay. We have a comment. Thanks, Chris, Ed, and Sam. Use your 4-gas meter to check for decreased O2 and CO. And John Hawksworth, I don't know if this is a question or comment. Is it true a cherry smell?
I had to close this box tonight because I'm tired of the smell. I have a few minorly damaged batteries. They're not like batteries that are going to thermal runaway, but this is my battery instruction box right here. And inside it, I have batteries that have been discarded. It is it's not an electrical smell. It's a very acute cherry bubble gum smell. When it starts going, it's not cherry. It doesn't smell like a sweet cherry smell. But for anybody that's ever smelt it before, it's very weird. It's the best way you can explain it. And when I do my in-person classes, I literally bring people this box when it's open and like take a whiff. It's below occupational levels. It will give you that smell. It's crazy.
So there's a comment here: when dealing with hydrogen fluoride, you want to be sure you know how to deal with exposure, such as using calcium gluconate to gel reverse the effects. We just had this at a fork truck battery failure while charging, got a call for CO alarm in the business, found fork truck actively charging off gassing hydrogen in a warehouse. So
let me hit Jeremy's here in a second. I want to really quickly, and I thought about this really quick, Chief, and I know we're pretty late right
okay.
now. Yeah.
We've lost a few people, but we still have 268 people in here. So
We're having fun. And this is I'm not a medic. I'm just an EMT. Okay, the EMTs saved the world, right? The paramedics are the one thinking about it. But for all of us, when we think about toxicology, the HF, thank you for following up with me on that, Anthony. I was doing a presentation, I think it was down in Texas, and it was the Air Force that I was speaking to. EVs, micromobility fires, structure fires, energy storage system fires. When we get 5, 10, 15 feet out, we don't need to worry about the HF as much. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but we're not seeing that nearly as much. However, this is where the Air Force conversation came on in. They've seen some injuries from people with their vape pens or their charges. If I have this portable power bank right now, that was provided by Pulse Point, the last Fire Rescue International I was at, and this goes into thermal runaway in my pocket. When it vents out, those flames, the smoke, that is now on my skin. I now have a dermal issue. Yes, I have first and second degree burns on my skin that we as paramedics and EMTs have to treat. But if you find out that it's a vape pen, that it's an energy storage system, if it's a cell phone, if it's anything with lithium-ion battery, you need to strap them onto a 12 lead now. You absolutely need to continue to track that, because that calcium gluconate, either topically or potentially IV, depending on where we're looking at, what our protocols are, and they're going to need proper transport and evaluation for the next 24 hours. We have seen fatalities and deficits from this.
Okay.
So that was a good conversation.
So I did want to make a comment. So I go to the Lowe's store quite a bit because it's the biggest hardware store near me. And they have 55-gallon trash cans inside the main entrance by customer service. And you can dispose your old lithium-ion batteries into it. You just pitch them in there. So one night I was there and I asked the young lady at customer service, I said, have they ever told you what to do if you see white smoke coming out of that drum? No. I said, well, the first thing you should do is run, find the fire alarm and get everybody out of the building. Why? And I started to explain it to her. The employees at Lowe's. And so you have no idea what condition the battery's in when somebody brings it in, and they just pitch it, throw it into that plastic container at the front of the store.
It's a huge problem, Chief, and you know that. We all know that. I think everybody on here recognizes that when auto manufacturers, when this battery manufacturer, when they created it brand new, they were expecting this to be brand new, shiny, and perfect forever. It wears out, things degrade, things break, things go down. We don't think about the end result, and the auto manufacturers don't need to worry about that. So it does have to come on down to those last 2 slides that I talked about. Get people to batteryfiresafety.org and pass off that information to the general public. This is for, I'm old. I thought that I was going to need to stop, drop, and or roll a lot more than I need to. I haven't had to do it maybe once in my life. But the 80s where I was at, it was stop, drop, and roll. 5, 10 years later, it was Edith. And then a few years later after that, right now in our era, we're at close before your dose, because these fires spread so fast. Well, I think it's time for FSRI, the National Fire Academy, and all of us together to come up with some cool, catchy rhyme for our kindergartners and school-age kids to learn about battery safety. I don't know exactly. I'm not a good at rhyming, but this is where we have to stop the flow, and that's a big thing right there that we're looking at. Is right now, OSHA just last year, OSHA cited fines of over $800,000 to I think it was SK Battery or MK Battery down in Georgia. It was a battery manufacturer down in Georgia, out in Gwinnett County, and they hit them on respiratory protection and the general duty clause. OSHA is kind of keeping a wide berth on this, but for everybody, including that Lowe's girl that you were talking about, if an incident happens and she gets injured or somebody else gets injured, Lowe's is going to have to face a huge fine for this. But there's no guidance like what we have for firefighting or for hazmat right now. It's just you didn't teach them properly enough.
All right. I think we've covered all the comments. I think we covered all the questions. And we're going to move on here to our exit for tonight. So, Chris, obviously your expertise shines once again. I extend my heartfelt gratitude for yet another outstanding webinar. I'm confident our listeners have gained valuable insights on safeguarding themselves against the hazards associated with responding to lithium-ion battery incidents. Your contributions are invaluable. In the email you'll find links to Chris's website at Hazmat and Rescue, where you can explore the valuable and engaging training services provided by Chris and his team. I want to remind our audience there'll be a brief survey we would like you to complete. Keep an eye open in your email from me that will have your certificate of attendance attached for tonight's webinar. Again, tonight's web episode will be uploaded to providentins.com. You'll receive that link in an email within the next day. Please make sure you check your spam or junk email before sending me an email saying I didn't get my certificate. For those of you who use the webinars training as a group, when you receive the thank you for joining us email from Sam, there'll be an Excel spreadsheet. Please use this to send the names and email addresses to use for certificates. It makes my life a lot easier when doing the certificates. I did get one email already with some names in it. Chief, I got that one taken care of. Don't worry about the spreadsheet. You can view previous webinars at providentins.com and use the training resource link in the upper right-hand corner of the page. By the way, in case you don't know it, I also host a monthly Station 1902 podcast where I interview subject matter experts on a variety of topics. You can listen to those recorded podcasts at your favorite podcast app. You can also find the link for them at providentins.com. And Sam put a note in here tonight. If you subscribe for our podcast, you might win the chance of winning a 511 Tactical Provident backpack. But you got to subscribe for the podcast. Mark your calendar for August the 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard when I'll host Captain Jason Valerie from the Longview, Texas Fire Department when he'll present 18 structure fire watchout situations. And before I close tonight, if there's anybody on here that has a specialty you would like to do a podcast or a webinar with, send me an email with the subject. I may ask you to send me your resume. I may go online and check you out because I want to make sure whoever we put on here knows what they're talking about. Or if you have a topic we should cover for a webinar or a podcast, let me know. I got to keep coming up with these ideas between Sam and I to what we're going to do next. And I'm getting old, so my imagination doesn't work as well as it used to. So until we meet again, stay safe for your family's sakes. Good night, all, and thank you.